In this video, we're going to have a look at getting records for a UX component that has data-bound tables. And we've got our UX. In this particular case, we've got a repeating section, but it doesn't really make any difference to the process. Here's our data binding. So we've got customers and customer systems in a one-to-many relationship. And when we have a look at this, here's our information. It's changing, of course, and because in our server side we've got onInitialize event for get primary keys for the parent table. But if you're going after something specific, in this case, if you have a drop down, and this drop down is unbound, and we're going to display a list of names. So Abrams, we're going to go after Abrams and display its information, and Graham or Fuller. Go after Graham because I know there's some repeating section data. Back up to Adams. You can see that the data is displayed for the item that we choose. Now, what we're going to do here really depends on what you want to have happen with your UX component. There are a couple of ways of getting this done. And what we're going to have a look at is the onChange event for the dropdown. And we've got a couple of items in here. We can populate controls in the UX with data from tables, but we really don't need to do that. All we really need to do is go after the primary key values for what we're searching for. So in this particular, what I'll do is I'll cancel this and I'll delete it, and then I'll add it. And I'll add it again. So I wanted to keep that. I'm just going to remove that part. And then I'll UX, get primary keys. And we're going to define our search fields. Search fields is DD customers. That's our drop down. Now the field in the table to search for is customer ID, range, and it's going to be an equals. And that's all we need in there. There are a lot of other features in here, but we don't need to have a look at those right now. So we'll save that. Now, really depends on what you're doing again with your UX. So we can have another look at this. Drop down Abrams. So there's Abrams. There's no repeating section data for that particular case. But what we're doing in this UX really is we're loading up the UX with records. Now we are navigating from record to record. It's got the key, so it is going to. It's doing an AJAX callback to get the data. So what would happen if we removed this part? I'm going to save that. We're going to go to live preview again. So here we've got a UX with no data. So nothing's been retrieved. It came up pretty quick. It does anyway, but so there's no data here. But now we're just going to go and get a record at a time. So you might want to do that as well. If I go and get Graham, wrong Graham. You see all the data comes through. Now in this particular case, these navigation buttons, they don't make any sense at this point any longer because we've only got one record loaded. So I can do next and previous and first all I want, but nothing's going to happen here. But changes can still take place. I can submit that because we've got a server-side event to save our data. So if I go after Abrams again, and then I go back after Graham, you'll see that those changes took place. So that's really all you need to do for this particular function. You can't, if I go back to the controls, you'll see we'll have a separate control for the drop down that we do for all the other ones because it is unbound. So if you don't want to see the customer ID, or in this case I'm going after names, but I'm saving it. If we go after the choices, You see I'm displaying a last name, but I'm actually storing a customer ID in that field, so I can use it as a search for the keys. And so this drop-down has to be a separate unbound field, and then you can either display or not display anything else that you want. But you'd have to have no, you don't have to have anything else. But if you want to show customer ID, then you can have it as a separate field. But this drop-down has to be separate from everything else. Thanks for having a look.